Hi guys, welcome. Danny here from the Magic Junk Drawer. And I know I'm live twice today, but I got a question about this, so I wanted to address it while it was fresh in my mind. Resistance, and what resistance is. So when you're working with the law of attraction, resistance is something that kind of like puts up a block, like a block that's standing in your way. So you can tell what you're resistant to if you just think about, dog, Dylan, please. If you think about, like, this is where I see it. Somebody contacts me for a tarot reading, and the question is, will I get the job? I went on a job interview on Tuesday. Am I going to get the job? So I flip over a couple of the cards, and the way that I do yes and no questions, I usually do it one way for simple yes and no, and then I usually pull a couple of cards just to kind of go a little bit deeper. So the question comes up with, will I get the job? And I say to the person, yes, you will get the job. And they answer me with, I'm not going to get the job. There's no way I'm going to get the job. That's resistance. It's when your initial reaction is, it's never going to happen. And it doesn't matter what the reason is. It doesn't matter. The reason in your head is what you're putting out into the universe, and then that's what's going to happen. So, and I've done it too. I mean, I have a psychic that I see. I don't see her as often as I used to. I used to see her quite frequently. Now I see her a couple of times a year, and I've had her tell me things, and I've answered her like that too. So I totally understand it. But if you break down the resistance, for example, what is possible and what's not possible? Is it possible that you get the job? Yes, it is. What would be something that is impossible? Being impossible maybe would be going to the moon. I'm not going to take a vacation on the moon right now. That to me right now is impossible. But asking a question whether or not you're going to get the job, yes, you are going to get the job. And then the person comes back with, there's no way I'm going to get the job. That's resistance. It's hitting the wall. It's not believing that you can have what it is that you want. And when it comes to tarot readings or it comes to anything like that, sometimes there's not always a straight line to the end. So for example, it could come up with, yes, you are going to get the job, and then you don't get the job, somebody else gets the job, it doesn't work out, and then they call you 3 months later. Like when you're dealing with the kind of energies that are dealing with the non-physical world, and you're dealing in the metaphysical, sometimes it's not a direct route, sometimes you can't nail timing, sometimes like if I pull a card and the six of spades comes out and I say, well, it could happen in June, but maybe it happens in 6 days or 6 weeks. Like there's a lot of room for error there, but it's not always a straight direct route. But if the answer comes up with yes, chances are you probably will get your desire. But it's the resistance that leads to it, and that's standing in your way. So do you really need to go for a tarot reading? No. If your belief is strong enough that you will get what you want, you don't have to consult the tarot cards. You don't have to consult anything. You can just put that out there. But it's when you're coming up against resistance, when you don't believe that it can be possible for you. There are people in this world that have been able to acquire crazy things because they believed that they could have it, or they believed that they could do it, or they believed that they could succeed at it, and it was nothing more than just that. So it's something to think about. What is your initial response? Like if you just ask somebody, and I've noticed this about myself, I need, or I used to need, I don't feel like I need it so much anymore, constant reassurance. Like I needed somebody to tell me, yes, it will happen. Yes, you're going to get it. Yes, it's going to come into fruition. I don't feel like I need it so much now, but like when I look back on my life, one of my friends, this is so funny. We were really young, like I don't even know if we were 21 yet. And my one friend and her sister, they used to throw these crazy parties. So I met this guy at one of the parties. Somebody brought him there, and I thought that we hit it off. And then the next time they had a party, he came. Well, he came for a little while, and then he left. And for the rest of the night, I kept asking my one friend, and like if she sees this video, she's gonna crack up, because the question was, "But do you think it was good that he came?" And she was like, "Yes, I think it was good that he came." But I couldn't stop asking her all night. Now I was drunk, but it didn't matter. I mean, I could have been sober. I still would have asked her 500 times. And by the end of the night, she was like, yes, yeah. Like, I didn't even have to, I just had to look at her. And she was like, yes, yes, I do think it was good that he came. I think it was good that he came. So it's like I needed her to tell me that. I couldn't just feel it. Like, I wouldn't allow myself to feel it, or I didn't want to, I don't know, I didn't want to put the carriage before the horse. I don't know what my problem was, but I had a problem and I needed to be reassured. So if you're finding yourself in a situation where somebody is telling you that they think that something is going to happen, or you're asking somebody because you need that reassurance, take a moment and just ask yourself, is it because you have some kind of a block? Do you believe that it can't happen for you? Do you believe that it can happen for everybody else but it can't happen for you? And if you're in that situation, then you're standing in your own way, because your belief is not as strong in getting what you want as getting what you don't want. So it's either you want the job or you don't want the job. And if your belief is greater that you won't get the job then you will, well, guess what's going to win? And I can tell you, just in my experience, from auditions I've been on to teach yoga classes, from friends of mine that are just not qualified for whatever the job is. I mean, I have not gotten yoga class jobs for yoga studios where I know that the person auditioning me does not have the training that I have, and I know that the person that gets the job does not have the experience or the training that I have, but they get the job. Why? Because they believe they deserve it. They believe that they can do it, or whatever the situation was. It doesn't matter what the reason is. the the end of the day is they believed that they should have that position and they got it. On the other hand, I have friends, like I had a friend, this guy could not hold a job to save his life, but every time he went on a job interview he got the job, and he got a good paying jobs for somebody that didn't have a degree and that didn't have the best track record as far as jobs were concerned. But it was his own belief in himself and in believing that he could get the job, and also not caring if he didn't get it. So there's a lot of that too. There's a lot of, it would be nice if I had this, but I can live without it. Because I think that a good part of him didn't want the job because he didn't want the responsibility of it. But if he got it, he took it, and it, lasted for as long as it lasted. And then when he was ready to move on, or whatever the situation was, he didn't care. Like, he would just, screw it and quit, or whatever, take the next job, or whatever the situation was. But there's a big difference between, if you look at these people and their attitudes. And I used to say that all the time to people when they contacted me about um, their ex boyfriend or girlfriend or their crush. Like, they would feel like they were never going to get an opportunity to be with this person and somebody else was going to. And if they did wind up calling in a third party and the third party showed up, and if I looked at the cards, a lot of times the cards would not show a love connection between these two people, which doesn't mean that these two people aren't going to be together, because more often than not people stay together and they can't even stand each other. They're just together so that they're not alone, or because it's cheaper, or whatever. I mean, and some of the situations that I've read have been pretty crazy. And I've seen that, like, it's because you have your person, I don't want to say on a pedestal, but on a pedestal, like, it feels almost like it's so impossible. Like, I always like to use um, the analogy of, like, the way that I feel about James Bay. Like, when I went to go see him in concert, I wasn't that far away from the stage, and it's like me looking up at him, like he is some kind of a, some kind of a god, and he is so far out of my reach. if that's how you're feeling about your certain person, and then somebody shows up who is not looking at them like that and not caring, and if this person doesn't want me, well, then I'll take the guy down the street or the girl down the street. Well, there's not that need and there's not that desire, and that desire keeps you desiring. So it's like kind of like leveling the playing field. Like, we're all equal here. You're not so super special. I'm not going to drop dead if you're not interested in me. Your life is not going to be any better with them than it is without them, and I'll be okay the way that I am. Kind of levels the playing field, and it makes it not so needy and not so necessary. And it's like the anxiety of feeling like, oh my God, I need to do something. And I've always said to people, because I've seen it in myself, acting out in desperation, doing something desperate, whatever that desperation may be, it never works. It never works. And it never works if you, like, if you're constantly believing that somebody else is better for whatever it is that you're going after, whether it be a job, a position, whatever it is, somebody better is always going to show up. That's just how it is. It's just how it is. Somebody better will show up because that's what you're focused on. And I have seen some pretty crazy things happen in my day because people believed that they could have it, and they weren't gonna, they were like, this is mine. This is I'm getting it. And they got it. And sometimes, like, I see like things that people get away with, and I'm like, holy cow, how did you get away with that? But they just believed that they could get away with it, and they did. And that's how it works. What you focus on, you create more of. So create more of the good things and ignore some of the stuff that you don't want, and then that stuff will start to go away. So it's very interesting. It's very interesting too, like like the things that I hear people talk about, and the things that, like the different attitudes that people have. Like when I first started teaching, I didn't feel like I was qualified to teach dogs yoga. I just didn't feel like I was qualified for anything. And then I've known some other people, like they did like a bare minimum 200-hour training, and they just think that like they think that they're doctors. And I'm like, oh, it's very interesting how different people are, because and even to this day, if somebody asks me a question and I don't know the answer, I always go to a teacher who's been teaching longer than me, or I'll contact my teacher, somebody who I can say, oh, this is the problem so-and-so is having, and I'm not really sure. What do you think? Because I don't want to give somebody the wrong information. But it's just interesting how some people don't think that way. Very, very interesting stuff. All right, let me know what you think. If you like what we're doing here at the Magic Junk Drawer, don't forget to like and subscribe, share us with your friends. Oh, and I'm also going to put my link to my Amazon page down below, because I've gotten some compliments on the pants that I was wearing, and they're on my Amazon influencers page.